Okay, so for our first short story in this unit, you've got Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. So you have some videos to watch about him, and it's going to be important to think about the genre, okay, in this case. And so you've got some background already, having already done Fahrenheit 451. We know a few things about the genre. So what you learned in the novel study and with the introductory dystopian fiction lecture will apply to this text as well. So we've got science fiction, right? And then you've got a subset genre, which is dystopian fiction. Okay, so this is a subgenre of sci-fi, the larger genre. But then we're also going to add another genre here, actually, which is satire. Okay, so you've got a video exploring what is satire and how we can learn from satire. So we just want to point out a couple things. Not all dystopian fiction is satirical, but when there's particular use of satire, okay, satire is about exaggeration. It uses mockery, so making fun of something. It's quite often a political emphasis, so it talks about governments and politics. And through this mocking, it's using also ridicule, which means to make something look ridiculous. Okay, so by exaggerating something so much, it ridicules it, makes it look stupid, makes it look ridiculous. And what we want to think about in this particular short story is how is the author using satire to connect to their theme? Because the plot and the satire are directly pointing to a theme. And so what you're going to find also in satire is it's very unrealistic. But it's unrealistic on purpose. So you'll notice a huge difference between the movie version and the short story version. When you watch the movie version almost totally misses the point of the satire. So in the 2081 movie version, satire is like almost entirely missing. Instead, they try to make it look super realistic. So in terms of modern readers, and especially readers who have gotten used to amazing special effects and modern Hollywood adaptations of sci-fi projects, fantasy, etc., the short story, you can totally miss the point if you're expecting something super realistic. The point is that it is unrealistic. And so what you're going to look at is the form of the text and its relationship to the content. The form in this case involves the style, it involves the genre plus subgenres. It involves the elements of fiction that we mentioned before. And these will all support and connect to the message. Okay, so another way to say this is form is how something is said, content is what is said. So we need to find a relationship between the form and the content. How they say it and what they are saying. Okay? This will give us the kind of why of the genre. Okay? Why are we using satire here? Why did he not make it super realistic, technological, advanced restrictions on people in the society, and so on? So very important aspect, okay, of this text is the whole issue of what is the theme trying to teach us? How are we going to get the message? Is to realize the form is a very important part of the message in this case. That is, being very unrealistic on purpose in order to exaggerate, mock the whole political and cultural situation. There's usually political and cultural critique of society going on through the satire by making something look ridiculous. Why? Well, that's going to come right back to the form, which we'll get at the end. Now, this document is asking, what if everyone were the same? Okay. So sameness is not quite the same as the idea of equality. So what is the text doing a thought experiment about is total equality. So is total equality possible, and can it be enforced in society? So total, you could say absolute equality. And the text is going to explore a few ways that the government tries to make everything totally equal, completely equal. In our physical appearance, in our beauty, in our intelligence, in our strength. Those are the three aspects that the government tries to make everyone equal. And supposedly everyone's going to be happy if in all of these three ways everyone was made equal. But we're dealing with total equality. We're not dealing with over against that equity. There's a difference between equity and total equality. If we say equity, that's helping people who are disadvantaged get up to normal versus taking people who are gifted and crushing them, putting them down sometime. So we're not dealing with equity in this text. The idea is of absolute total equality, which is enforced. Okay, like how do they get there? Military plus technological enforcement. Hopefully you can see this okay. I'm just writing all over this thing, which is kind of fun, actually, to be able to do that. So with that in mind, again, you watch the videos about the author and the genre and the satire, the fact that Vonnegut is famous for this, and he had a deep personal experience with World War II, he was in one of the most horrible events of World War II, which was called the Bombing of Dresden. And in Dresden, they firebombed one of the most beautiful cities in Germany, if not the most beautiful city in Germany. And it was horrible. About 30,000 people died, but it was just a very, very horrible way to die. They dropped bombs, fire bombs that created like a whirlwind and tornado of fire, a firestorm that sucked everybody in and just burnt everything down. And he was a survivor in that. He was a soldier. And so he has a lot of his novels and his writings use satire and use humor. So another thing to, I guess, add here. It's making fun, but it's using humor. And it's also using sarcasm. So a lot of sarcasm, a lot of kind of dark humor is used to make a critique or a commentary on a situation. And so that kind of dark humor critique can be a way of compensating for pain, for trauma, for maybe post-traumatic stress syndrome, which he probably had. But it's also a way to get people to consider their blind spots. By using humor, it draws people in, maybe disarms them a bit, makes them a little bit more open to think about an idea, shows it from a different angle, and then they have to consider, like, okay, what's the commentary that the author is giving on this particular topic. So we know the topic's going to have to be about the sameness or total equality, and he's going to make a social commentary. Okay, that social commentary, it might reflect his current society that he was writing in when we talked about the author, the text, and the audience. So we're coming later, but he could also be commenting about the society that he was in at the time. One of the issues that was going on at the time was issues about the civil rights movement. Civil rights in the USA. And yes, he wasn't against the civil rights movement, but he was saying, like, what if, because these texts all kind of ask, what if this keeps going and going and going, and you try to make total equality. So, okay, black people need a right to vote and so on. But he's saying, like, what if you take this idea and you keep stretching it and stretching it? How could the government abuse that? So there's some background. So we're going to think about the relationship between the form and the content. So how he's saying it through the genre of satire, on purpose being unrealistic. What does that say about the theme of absolute or total equality? And we'll get to that in the next video.